So the rumors turned out to be true. Rumors that were started by the source, but either way, an old gaming institution has returned from the dead. It's Sunday, so let's get sensational. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. Just like Game Informer is back from the dead. So last week, Game Informer's social media account sprang back to life and began teasing a return along with former staff members. They were also posting on their social media as well. Well, after the teases, Game Informer officially returned with the full staff they had at the time that it closed last year. So Game Informer has been purchased by Gunzilla Games. Shortly after Game Informer was closed by GameStop, Gunzilla Games reached out to the former staff to see if there was interest in them continuing the website and the magazine, and basically they hired all of them. They then purchased Game Informer from GameStop, and the staff had been working in secret on articles and of course getting the site back up and running. They even posted their 2024 top 10 list. So yep, the Game Informer site is officially back up with the previous staff and all the articles that were previously lost to time when GameStop just shut down the site and basically didn't give anybody access to the archives. They also mentioned that they were doing some kind of subscription plan and bringing back the magazine at some point in the future. But one of the most important things they did was they started a new company, Game Informer Inc., to keep it a separate entity from Gunzilla Games, so that way they can maintain their journalistic integrity and be fully independent, because obviously with them now being owned by a game company, that can create a conflict of interest. Now last week when I covered the story, I was thinking that GameStop was bringing the site back, but I should have known better. Like, what was I even thinking? Why would GameStop actually do something that people wanted? That's not like them. Speaking of GameStop, I wonder what they've been up to. Oh, apparently they're planning to close a significant number of stores this year, and they're heavily investing in Bitcoin. Well, at least Game Informer got away from all that. And speaking of Game Informer, it's only appropriate that I use one of their articles as a reference for our next story about Ubisoft. So I've covered the recent Ubisoft layoffs and talked about them not making the revenue that they were expecting on some of their big games, and even the smaller ones like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So due to the current state of the company, Ubisoft has decided to accept a $1.25 billion investment from Tencent, and they're using this to create a new subsidiary that will manage their three biggest franchises: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. This new subsidiary will be issued a worldwide irrevocable license to those IP, and this whole thing is expected to be completed by the end of the year. The new subsidiary will also have their own leadership and report directly to the board of directors. Now obviously, if Tencent did this large investment, then they probably have some kind of ownership in the new subsidiary to make it worth it for them. But I do wonder what Ubisoft proper is going to be doing if they're letting the subsidiary manage their biggest franchises. Well, prior to this announcement, it was rumored that they've been shopping around some of their IP and having secret talks with Microsoft, EA, and other publishers. So I'm not sure if they're still planning to do that after the announcement of this new subsidiary, but even with this announcement, it's still possible that they're looking to sell off some of their IP that they feel like is not going to be profitable for them. Either way, I guess we'll see what happens with Ubisoft and the remaining IP after this new subsidiary forms. But things could always change for Ubisoft, just like they've changed with Lenovo's upcoming SteamOS handheld. So I'll cover the announcement of Lenovo's upcoming handhelds, and the most interesting of them, in my opinion, was the SteamOS version of the Legion OS, because it's the first handheld to ship with SteamOS outside of the Steam Deck itself. When they originally announced it, they said that the cheaper version of this handheld was going to be $500. But recently, when pre-orders went live at Best Buy, it looks like the price has gone up to $550. It's not a bad price, but as the Engadget article points out, it puts it at the same price as the Steam Deck OLED, which arguably has a better display. Now, the Legion OS is still going to be a little bit more powerful because of its chip, but I think at $50 cheaper, it would have been a great trade-off. I wasn't able to find anything from Lenovo addressing the price. It could have something to do with the tariffs, but they were just kind of like, oh, it's up for pre-order now, and then you went to it and it was just more expensive. Either way, it's not the biggest deal in the world, and I still think it's a decent deal for what you get for the price. But you know what other handheld is coming soon? The Nintendo Switch 2. And that's what we're talking about today in our final story. So we have the Switch 2 Direct coming up on Wednesday, but that hasn't stopped the last minute rumor train from going. And some of those rumors came from the Nintendo Direct that they did last week. But before we hop into any rumors, let's talk about a new feature that's confirmed for the Switch and Switch 2, which is game sharing. So Nintendo is changing the way that digital games are shared on the Switch and the upcoming Switch 2. They're going to be using a new game card system, which is supposed to launch towards the end of next month. People in the same family will have digital games represented as game cards, which can be used to manage access. So if you have more than one Switch, you have to load the game card for that system to play it, and then you can eject it in order to play it on the other system. You can also loan a game from your digital library to anyone in your family for up to 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, the game will automatically return to the owner's library, and it will need to be lent out again if they want to continue playing it. Nintendo did say that this new system is optional. You can still continue to use the old system, which is having a primary console and a secondary console, and that secondary console just has to connect to the internet to authenticate that you own the digital game. But the new game sharing feature wasn't really the most interesting thing to come out of this story. So there was a blurb at the bottom of the video about Nintendo's new game sharing system that mentioned Switch 2 and Switch 2 Edition games can only be loaded on a Switch 2. And the reason that this is making headlines is because of the Switch 2 Edition part. So from the sound of that, it seems like certain games may get a Switch 2 Edition, which we would assume would be a version that runs and looks better on the Switch 2. There were rumors a couple of years ago that they were showing off the Switch 2 dev kits with a version of Breath of the Wild that was running at 4K 60. And also, if you run the game on PC on an emulator, you can pretty easily hit that. Not that I would know. But I could see them doing a Switch 2 edition for some of the games, like their bigger games that they released on the Switch. Now, of course, the real question is, how does Nintendo handle this? Would this be an upgrade thing like Microsoft and Sony did this generation, at least at the beginning, where you pay like $10 and you get the enhanced version of the game if you already own it? Or would they just charge full price for the Switch 2 edition and you have to rebuy it? Considering that they're using the Switch 2 edition language, I feel like they're probably just gonna be full price releases and you probably have to rebuy the games on the Switch 2 to get the better version. Now, the other rumors that have come out about the Switch 2 revolve around launch and pre-order dates. So there are currently 2 dates that have leaked for the pre-order date. So Best Buy Canada apparently put up a blog post too early and then said the Switch 2 would be available for pre-order on April 2nd, the day of the Direct. Of course, they pulled it down pretty quickly after it went up, but yeah, that's a pretty good indicator of when the pre-orders may be going live. But Insider Gaming is also claiming that they spoke to a big US retailer and that the pre-order date they received was April 9th. The system is rumored to be releasing in June, so it would make sense that the pre-orders would start next month, but either way, it seems like it'll be the day of the Direct or just a week later before the pre-orders go up. Now, the other part of the rumor is about the games they plan to have at launch. It's rumored that Nintendo has a 3-phase plan for launch when it comes to the games. So the Switch 2 will reportedly launch with primarily first-party games, which is the first phase. The second phase is for dev kits going out to third-party studios in June. I'm pretty sure major third-party studios already have dev kits, but I'm assuming that more third parties will get their hands on them in June if this is true. And then the third phase is something around the holiday season, which there were really no details about that part of the phase. The rumor seems likely as the Switch launch was similar, and Nintendo's strongest games are usually their first-party games, so it would make sense. But the Direct is on Wednesday, so we should find out more details by then. And I'll of course be doing a video after that to share my thoughts, so stay tuned for that video, and obviously subscribe if you're not. And let me know what you think down in the comments about today's stories. Are you happy to see that Game Informer is back? And is Ubisoft heading down the wrong path? Again, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button thing wherever it is to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. I always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace.